Hello and welcome back to my floor. Today, not only am I recording with my AirPods in to see if it gets rid of background noise, but I am also going to explain a fun little theory I have in relation to this year's Met Gala that I have called the death of the Met. So let's just get into it. As I go through this, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes because there are some actual facts in this. But so the Met Gala is hosted by the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. As of like the late 90s, early 2000s, it has been hosted on the first Monday in May every year, as it is currently. And it is a fundraiser to raise money for the Costume Institute. This started in 1948 and also marks the opening of their annual exhibit for the year. At that time, tickets costed $50. Let's remember that number, which, as I have calculated with inflation for today, is like $607, so not actually that much in like the grand scheme of like it being a big celebrity charity event. The Met didn't become what it was today until Diana Vreeland started inviting in like celebrities at the time in 1972, and then Anna Wintour took over and kind of Vogue took over in 1995. As of last year, tickets did cost $35,000 a person, and that's not even, you don't even get the meal that is served during the gala. Your tables to eat range from $200,000 to $300,000. And this is just for people who just aren't on the guest list. So Vogue invites a myriad of people every year, which are normally the celebrities you see on the carpet. But it is a very well done fundraiser. They normally have a performance that happens throughout the night. You have top chefs serving meals. It is estimated that it was around $17.4 million was raised through this event last year. So that's just kind of what the Met is, what it fundraises. So a lot of why I think the Met is dying is kind of related to this year specifically. So this year, the exhibit they're opening is called Karl Lagerfeld, A Line of Beauty, and is a retrospective of his work. That's like the only way to say it. It's what it is. But Andrew Bolton, who is the curator in charge, claims it is not a retrospective because he would have hated that, him being Karl Lagerfeld, but the show is more like an essay. But what is an essay if not a retrospective when talking about somebody's entire career? Karl Lagerfeld stated multiple times during his life that like he did not want to have retrospectives done because he does not like to think about the past, only the future. So the fact that after his death they would still decide to do this is a little concerning. But I am not Vogue. I do not work for Vogue. I do not work for the Met. So therefore I have no say in what gets done. Something else that's important to note is that this is one of the few years where there has been no designer as a co-chair. No fashion designers are on co-chairs. This year it is Dua Lipa, Roger Federer, Penelope Cruz, and Michaela Cole, and then also Anna Wintour. But Anna Wintour is always a co-chair. And the co-chairs, from what is understood, is kind of like a host or a figurehead for the event for the year. They don't, to my knowledge, really do much. But what is important for this year is the dress code, which is normally themed around the exhibit. So like, oh gosh, what was it last year? It was just like one of the last two that were both about American fashion. Like the theme was, oh yeah, so last May for, I believe it was America, a Lexicon of Fashion, was the Gilded Age. And as we saw through that, no one really wanted to follow the theme. This year's theme is just in honor of Carl, and it doesn't really give you much to work with. So like last year, the Gilded Age. The Gilded Age is entirely a fashion period. You can go into that period, you can do research, you can make original designs based off of this work. This year, because it's in honor of Carl, most people are just gonna look at the work he has done and try to adapt it, but that's part of the problem. Carl did a lot of really commercial, what's considered ready-to-wear work. A lot of his designs just don't look different, really, or like aren't what we would consider Met Gala carpet level, because this event is seen as more of a costume event where you wear things you couldn't normally wear to any other red carpet. This, along with a few other things, is why I think the Met is going to, in theory, die. And I don't mean die like they're gonna stop doing the event. I think it's gonna die in what I consider a social sense. I am so sorry about the sun. It is wild today. So I think the Met's gonna die, but not in the sense of like we're gonna stop doing the event, but more in the way of like only people who really care about fashion are gonna keep following the event. It's not gonna stay in the public consciousness. Kind of like if you like know about film festivals and stuff, like the Venice Film Festival, only people who are really, really into film every year care about the fact that the Venice Film Festival has happened. So I think we're gonna watch the Met kind of die socially. And I think we've been seeing this over the past couple years because of the complaints people have had about influencers, which I don't necessarily have a problem with the influencers themselves being invited, because sometimes they're not invited by Vogue. They're invited by the fashion houses who are allowed to invite so many people. And to keep brands relevant, to keep events relevant, you've got to invite who is popular, and especially to younger audiences as you're trying to grow your consumer base. And younger audiences care more about like Addison Rae's and like the D'Amelios than they do what one would consider a traditional celebrity. Like you don't see many 13-year-olds talking about how like Blake Lively or Penelope Cruz are like the people they want to follow. They care about people who are considered influencers. So it's like because these influencers have been invited and are being promoted so heavily, people just don't like that they're there. And part of that is because I think people see them as talentless, which to an extent I agree with. It's much harder to say somebody like an Addison Rae has a clear talent when you know she mostly got famous from being conventionally attractive and doing dances that were already like pre-choreographed. So people are kind of angry about that. And then what I think really makes them angry is that unlike what we would consider a traditional celebrity, so like a musician or an actor, influencers don't get the same red carpets as most traditional celebrities. So you see them at more carpets that are like Kids' Choice Award focused, or like just like what one would consider a smaller carpet or a more casual carpet. You're not normally seeing influencers getting invited to the Oscars, right? So by only getting invited to these smaller carpets, they aren't getting as much what I would consider carpet training, and they're just stylists. Like the stylists they work with are not traditionally stylists that probably do very heavy red carpet looks or just don't care enough to try to get them a good red carpet look, which is a little upsetting. That's my issue personally with influencers. It feels like they don't know, or they do not have the team to help them dress as they should for an event like the Met. But I think that's part of why we're seeing the death of it, is just people getting fed up with influencers not really doing much to follow theme, and just they feel lacking whenever they're on the carpet compared to a lot of traditional celebrities. This also ties into my point of the lack of people who seem to be on theme in the last few years. Like this last year where Kris Jenner was like, I'm dressed like Jackie Kennedy. Kim Kardashian did Marilyn Monroe. A lot of people heard gilded and thought of the other meaning and not the time period. The other meaning being like covered in gold. Like, that's not what they were going for. They wanted you to reference the time period. So it's just, nobody's on theme, and people like aren't holding them accountable enough to be like, be on theme. Like Vogue has the power to just like, for the event to be like, hey, you better show up on theme or you don't get in. Like the theme is sent out as a dress code. It is a dress code. You can enforce it if it's a dress code, and I don't know why they never seem to. I do know. It's because they don't want to lose like the press that the celebrities will bring or that the fashion houses will bring. So I think the Met should die socially. I think that would be a good thing for it, actually. Because I think if it becomes a less publicized event for like just like 2 or 3 years, that can really help them get it back together. And like, honestly, they invite like 700 people. I know you need to invite that many people to fundraise, but like, maybe you should start inviting less people. Like, maybe it should become more exclusive. I'm not like overly pro exclusivity or something for like an event like this, but like, if people aren't going to dress for the event, like especially the people you've invited, I'm not talking about like the social elite who buy tickets. I don't care about them. Like, respectfully, I don't. Because like the mayor of New York is always invited. I don't care what the mayor of New York wears. I care what the celebrities wear and the fashion houses dressing them. But like, if we make it more exclusive and we enforce dress code, I think the Met will just overall see better press through the event. But then I also get why they wouldn't want that, because all press is good press and that, and like, I don't know. It's complicated. But also, like, part of the issue is this, they're not picking good themes to like dress around. Like, yes, Karl Lagerfeld was arguably a very important designer in the history of fashion. And like, yes, I know he died in 2019 and like that's sad and whatever. But like, even though the exhibit's based around him, why not pick something else from his life to like base the theme around other than just him? Because I'm sorry, I don't care that someone's gonna probably show up dressed like him in like the outfit we all know him for. I'll put it in here. Like, I don't care about that. I want to see interesting looks. But again, the stuff he designed was not always the most interesting. It was very good at selling. It was commercial. We saw this last year with the Lexicon of Fashion. Like, yeah, the Gilded Age was cool, but like how American was that? It was like, yes, it's an age that's like typically confined to America, but like, we could have done something more interesting. I don't know what, but like, we need to pick better themes. Themes people are gonna want to dress for. because obviously they know these themes so far in advance. Like, if they're not dressing for it, it's because they just don't want to, and we need to, like, do something else. Like, the theme was America. We could have done, like, American icons or something as, like, a theme. And then, like, a Marilyn Monroe dress wouldn't have looked dumb. Like, I don't know. But I think they just need to take a couple years to be less socially relevant so we can make the event about fashion and fundraising for fashion. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It fundraises to preserve and continue the Costume Institute for the museum. It's a fundraiser. So, I don't know. These are all just thoughts I have, thoughts and opinions. Nothing is concrete. I would love to know what you think. Let me know. But again, real sorry about the sun situation where it got real bright in the middle. And I hope the sound was a little better in this one, just background noise wise. But yeah, that's like all the thoughts I have. Yeah, okay, bye.